I guess we'll get started. Don't want to keep people waiting any longer.
Total
Hooked out
opposites of
one
everything.
more member. I guess there's a couple of chairs free. If you want to sit down, grab the one there anyway. We'll just do basic introductions. I'm Doug Bogan. I'm Chair of the Conservation Commission.
Paul Panish, I'm Commissioner.
Gary Embry, I'm the Commissioner. CC.
Pat Lindsay, I do the minutes.
Why don't we start around from this end?
Phil Bodie and about up to the project.
Darlene Severo, town resident.
Karen Joy.
Production, Painted Back Road.
History company on Canterbury.
Dave Pelletier, Old St. Louis Road.
Marie Pelletier, Old Sutherland Road. Catherine Clinton, Painted Back Road.
Construction back in.
Susan Pierre, back Painted Road. And Douglas, Painted Back Road.
Patrick Booty, 87 Canyon Back Road.
Henry McKevich, Kennebec Road.
Victor Benjamin, Canterbury Road. Olive Williams, Old Settlers Road and a butter.
Paul Klein, Canterbury Road.
Henry Peterman, Canterbury Road. I didn't know so many people lived in Canterbury Road. Great to see you all. As I said before, we're not used to having a crowd here. I'm sorry we don't have better accommodations, but and we're just starting with this. As you probably know, this is just the design phase, and it'd be literally the first discussion we have of it. Although we, regularly make recommendations to the planning board, of course, the ones who really call the shots. We're just advisory. But we're certainly interested in getting your feedback and your ideas about the plan. I don't know if either of you had a chance to look at it much.
I did. One thing I wanted to ask the group is, because I know I spoke to Phil last night. How many of you are aware of what the yield plan is versus the proposal? Not many. So Doug, you may want to
Yeah,
give some
and,
background.
some of this is relatively new for us. We're not experts. We're all volunteers, of course.
Doug, let me just interrupt for a second. We didn't know anything about this until December 23rd.
Yeah, and I think that's true. Most people.
So we're just trying to put it
I
together.
happened to talk to the chair of the conservation, the select board, who's also on the planning board, and she had mentioned it. But I don't think any of us had seen the plan yet, and I think that just came out in the last week or so. The basic story with the yield plan, which is what we're showing up here, this is kind of theoretically how many 2-acre lots essentially could be gotten in that swath of land, the 600 some acres, right? If there was a regular development kind of routine standard arrangement, this might be what they would be pursuing. But what they've proposed, at least in the initial design, is to do what's called a conservation subdivision, which basically allows them to build on smaller lots, less than about an acre, not the exact
20,000 square feet.
right. And the idea is to cluster the development, and from our point of view, the other great idea is, of course, of the conservation development is that you set aside about half the land for conservation. In other words, put it into an easement or deed restriction that makes sure that there isn't development taking place on it. Our understanding is that the developers have spoken with some people in the town, not with us though, and also with the Southeast Land Trust folks, who I don't think are directly involved as yet, but they had some input about it. And so this is the active proposal, if you will. So I don't know, have any of you seen this map before?
Yeah.
You do. You do know that that's what's on the table, I guess. Again, it's the first we've seen of it as well. We are very interested, of course, in the land that's to be put into conservation, because it's actually our number one priority. I'd forgotten. I went back and looked at our co-occurrence map. We have a half dozen areas of the town that are most in need of protection or most sensitive in terms of various factors environmentally. And this area and the area just north of it is certainly the biggest swath of the land and has the most factors that we want to look for conservation. So it's certainly an interest of ours. So that's about where we're at right now. I don't know if commission members want to comment or ask any questions.
Well, I guess I'll make a couple of comments, and as Doug said, we are not experts on this, and we're just learning about the issues with the yield plans and how it relates to the actual development proposal. My understanding is it gives them a target for how many living units they can have on the land that is then proposed as a conservation easement. And of course, they typically go for as many as the yield plan will allow. Now, when I look at this proposal for a yield plan, there's a couple of problems that I have with it. One is, I don't know what the green delineates. There's no legend. I know that there's prime wetlands. I don't know if that is showing buffer, if it's just showing prime wetlands itself. So there's questions about that. If you look at these areas in particular, abutting the prime wetlands, there are very significant steep slope issues there.
Right.
And, I question whether these are buildable lots. And if they're not buildable lots, they can't be designated as such in the yield plan, as I understand it. So these were the things that popped out to me initially. As far as looking at this goes, they have made a clear effort to do what we've asked for, what the guidelines state, for a conservation subdivision. That doesn't mean that this land is going to be have a conservation easement on it either, as I understand, but it will be protected. But they've clustered the housing, they've clustered the plots, they've limited the amount of impermeable surfaces. Where I see a bit less of that is they have two proposed areas here and here for duplexes. And those don't seem to be quite as well aligned, but they clearly are making an effort to abide by the conservation guidelines as they're set out in the town documentation. So I hope that clarifies some of this.
So I guess we'd like to throw it open to you folks. Get your
Could I speak to
comments, questions? Yeah,
the yield plan?
sure.
To reintroduce myself, my name is Colin Williams. I'm Roger Williams' son, the gentleman who bought all this property and put it together. I built the house, I built the barns,
Okay.
I bought every square foot of that.
Uh-huh.
So to say, if you go back to the yield plan, I'm also was a contractor, house builder, so I know a little bit about what I'm talking about. The house lots, they show up here. That's on Nippo Hill, which is all rock ledge. You're not gonna put a house there.
Steep.
It's like that, and it's bedrock.
Yeah.
This whole section, I would not personally try and put a house there. I forget what soil type it is, but it is very rocky, very shallow, and nothing there to build on. My property actually comes a little further over here and all the way down to here. So that is not a buildable lot of theirs. It's my property. I'm not letting anyone put a house there. In addition, this is where they want to put the 7 duplex units. That is a Woodbridge soil. And the USDA soil maps and descriptors say this is severely hazardous to residential or commercial development because it is so poorly drained and bony and apt to flood. And so how you could put 7 duplexes there with the septic systems that they would have to have next to a wetland, I mean, that's fantasy. This perimeter is the edge of the marsh. So they're not showing at least a 50-foot setback, let alone anything greater than that. This is the Bedford property. And I was speaking to senior woman, I don't remember her name, Carolyn Bedford's daughter, who it's in trust in their name. She would like, said in passing, she would like to see it go into conservation land, which would be ideal if the whole thing could be. And again, the soils, these steep soils, yes, around here is buildable, but much of what they show is buildable lots. The soils won't accept the septic system, so unless they were going to build a huge sewer to a communal septic site or something. And just the idea as a developer, I think I figured they had 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, you need another one in here, 5, at least 6 or 7 bridges to go in there. And I mean, I think that's kind of fantasy, but that's,
Yeah, I'm not sure how that affects the yield plan. I mean,
right, the bridges, that's
yeah,
me.
And there are roads there, right? They're like woods roads.
They are woods roads.
Yeah, obviously not.
My dad had it logged off, and the skidders really screwed it up. They actually sued the logging companies that left the roads in such bad shape.
Yeah.
And they accessed through my property here. This is a woods road. And I had to sue the loggers as well.
Where's the land that's too poor for septic?
Um,
Our area? or-
this definitely is
I'm old settlers there. right?
on Old Settlers, but then on the property,
and that is where they are currently proposing to put the duplexes.
7 duplexes there and 32
The
up
large
here.
one is there.
And the soil type is? The soil type is
This,
verified that it's not.
yeah, and I got this information from the USDA. Are you familiar with all the soil mapping
Yeah.
that they have? Any spot in New Hampshire, you can go up and look it up and see what they recommend for that. It's targeted towards farmers, but it's also for building and that sort of thing. The next step up from what the soil rating up there was, it was ideal for ski slopes. So,
Yeah, right.
but, so because of either the grade here or along in here, how low it is, it's either too steep for a septic system or too wet for a septic system. So a lot of what they show as buildable lots are not buildable lots. Like, you would be very hard pressed. This is a real drop off. This is a hayfield now. If you tried to squeeze a house in between a road there and that,
Right, those lots have to meet town requirements for, and I don't know, it's not at all clear to me that they would.
Yeah. Yeah, you do wonder how they came up with that, some of them.
And now what I would say is, I don't remember what they said about how many units they pulled out of this yield plan. They did do slightly less than that.
Yeah, I think it was 184.
yeah, 184, 185, it's
Versus
Yeah,
170s.
185.
Oh, yeah.
We could turn it, I don't know if you want to rotate it to make it north-south, but it should be able to. It'd still be right side up.
Yeah.
If you go down to the bottom, you can see that it'll say what the plan is 185, and then the other one's what, 174, I think.
And they said plus or minus on that.
Yeah. So it's less, I mean.
But it's
I'm
not a
sure
lot less.
Yeah.
And the question really is, have they gone way overboard on their yield plan? And this is something, yeah, the issues that you're bringing up.
Yeah.
You need to bring those up before the planning board on the night.
Okay.
Those are very important.
Okay. One other thing, species conservation. This is habitat for Blanding's turtles and spotted turtles and wood turtles. And I believe the Blandings is listed as endangered in New Hampshire, and the spotted and wood are threatened.
Yeah.
And if I can scroll back in my phone long enough, I find about one every year, usually crossing the Old Settlers Road.
Yeah.
And I try and take a picture of the carapace and send it off to the state. So,
I mean, I would certainly think that we would be requesting an environmental survey of the land. Yeah, they do mention wildlife corridors. I don't remember the name of the study that did those.
Yeah, it's
Yeah. Something like that. I would like to see these delineated on the maps. I mean, these maps, they're not sufficient for the purposes.
They do have a line drawn for where that corridor is.
Yeah, I think it's on the other, on
Oh,
the.
they do?
Yeah.
Oh, maybe it's the next one down where they show the roads. Yeah, there's one more.
I don't think I knew that was it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
right there.
that dash line, I think, through the center, through the big wetland.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that,
that's
A
supposed to be
corridor.
a wildlife corridor?
that's the idea. I mean, this was from CELT, I think, had recommended that.
Well,
It doesn't mean they're gonna necessarily, but the idea is that with the clustering of the conservation development.
Yeah.
You're to some degree avoiding that corridor. I mean, obviously there'll be a road and, it's not
well,
completely clear,
on one map, they show a road coming through there,
right?
and there is a road,
But
but it's just gravel dumped on top of a marsh.
right.
And
So it's really not.
I can't imagine that the EPA would allow a road to go there. That's on the yield.
Yeah, that,
Yeah.
yeah, once again, that's a question, what can be used in the yield plan? How can are they allowed to basically put a road anywhere they want? It would seem like this is clearly, the green is prime wetlands. So there's strong restrictions on what they're gonna be able to
Yeah.
do there.
And a larger buffer, of course. So,
So these are, these are issues that we will bring up. A lot of what we'll bring up has to do with wetlands. You can bring up anything you like and should.
For what it's worth, this is 180 degrees opposite from what my dad had intended for the property.
yeah.
He was an avid hunter and huge supporter of like Ducks Unlimited because he wanted to preserve the land so there would be ducks for him to shoot to have for dinner. And the same thing here, if you ever went on the Coop Farm site when it was for sale, he talks about how the first time he came to it and went up to the hill where the house is built, he looked back and saw deer in the field and he knew this was the place for him.
Right.
And he, back in the 90s when I worked for him, we were managing the property for conservation issues, doing small clear cuts to promote edge growth and browse and planting apple trees and releasing oaks so that the mast would get bigger for the crop for deer and other animals. And yes, there are fisher cats and bobcats.
Oh, yeah.
All that. So,
Well, as we've seen in some other sites, and one other one we're dealing with now, you may know about on Young Road. In the past, we've heard of owners wanting to preserve the land, but if you don't put in an easement, it doesn't, it doesn't work.
I tried
I know
for,
it's
since
probably,
1983, when he bought the first piece of it, to get him to do that, and he was,
yeah,
in addition to being an avid outdoorsman, he was also a businessman. It did, I don't want to limit my options, but
yeah, yeah. I mean, I kind of mentioned that just for future reference. If you have land that you want preserved, you really got to do the
Take the
preservation.
step.
Yeah. Question, comment?
Do you have any idea whether the proposers of this plan have even looked at the land? This
No, I mean, we don't know that,
layout
but
is, to me, to be
yeah.
amateurish
yeah, I mean,
and very, very badly thought out.
yeah, I know they're not local, but they're in-state, I guess. You may know more about them than we do. I mean, I just read the description
Right.
they provided there. It sounds like they're trying to do, relatively well by it. We've certainly seen worse developments and worse conservation developments. But we'd certainly want to talk to them as well. I think we'll certainly invite them in to talk to us.
Thought they had said who they were somewhere.
Yeah, they mentioned something about the,
It's Clear Summit Investments by
Right.
Alexander Kempf.
right.
I can't believe they've
Yeah,
lost
the
some
name.
of that, from what they've laid out. It's
Mhm.
been on that land that,
oh, yeah,
Yeah.
you probably know it better than I do.
Yeah.
I probably do.
Yeah.
Again, we're not totally clear on what the rules are for the yield plan. It doesn't necessarily mean that's what's going to get built there, but it is what they use to determine the numbers. And as we've seen elsewhere, it's problematic because, if you really can't put that many houses there and they don't need to put that many houses there, they shouldn't, but.
But they try to make it the largest possible target.
Right.
That's,
Yeah, yeah. But you should know that the yield plan is not the development plan.
Right.
I mean, that's not, we certainly would advocate strongly for doing a conservation development at the very least. And, that's more likely what might transpire.
Where does the yield plan come from?
but it comes from the same developers who are proposing the conservation development subdivision. They have to do both. They do a yield plan to give them an idea of how many buildable units they can put on the property, and then they consolidate those into a conservation
Okay, so
subdivision.
The yield plan is not a Barrington plan. The yield plan is something created by the proposers.
Yeah, the town doesn't do plans for developers.
But the developers need to meet certain rules, and the ones that know what they're doing, they study the rules and unfortunately, our rules are relatively lax. I mean, if we had our way, we'd have buffers that are twice as wide as they are. We'd have rules about steep slopes, and because, obviously a lot of these places you couldn't build a house or it'd be a lot of extra work. And so it really should be considered a buildable lot. But, again, we don't make the rules or we can't fix them after the fact. But yeah, they follow a certain routine for doing it. And, I kind of see it as kind of a cookie cutter thing. They just take the land and figure out how many ways they can split it up. But it's not carved in stone either. I mean, we've seen the yield plan for couple of developments change over time, depending on what the planning board says. So, yeah, I'd say speak up, go to the planning board, tell them what you think about this, and, they can put requirements on the developer.
And they are much more expert than we are in all of these issues, and they do know the town regulations very well. They will insist that they be abided by.
We don't want any of it.
You seem to lament that there's rules, like you said, you'd like the buffers twice as large. Is there a way that puts you to amend these things and get this changed?
Well, the town meeting, right? Yeah. Yeah, we're actually working on a way to at least make the waiver process a little more objective. Right now, pretty much you ask for a waiver, you get it. And, it's led to a lot of things being built in areas that maybe shouldn't be, or at least not as good a buffer as we'd like. Some of these requirements are at the state level and we don't really have, despite what we talk about home rule, we really don't have it in New Hampshire. So some things you'd have to go to Concord and get them to change the the law.
But most of it centers around our zoning ordinances, and they're quite loose. We really don't, we like to let people do what they want. That's historically, that's what the town has tried to do, and it's to be reflected in that.
See,
There have been attempts to tighten the zoning laws.
You would think they'd want to preserve it more,
Yeah.
the town.
Well, I think if, in general, you give people the choice, they will, but then they think, well, maybe not my land. I believe there's one that might be on the ballot that would double the size. And I don't know how that affects the yields, but it would double the lot size from 2 acres to 4 acres, or 3.5 acres, I believe. I don't know whether that's,
Because this is already in process.
yeah, I don't think it would
Yeah.
affect this one, but I'm just saying that, that's the way you go about it. It's you propose, and, any 25 citizens can write up a proposal and, the select board will weigh in on it. But, it could get voted. I've worked on some of those in the past, and we have some ordinances that we're not sure whether they're legally defensible, but they seem to help. So, it's something to consider, and we'd certainly be interested in changing some of the rules, certainly.
Yeah.
Would be to our benefit with outside advice from the town, like UNH, you name it, anybody we can get.
Any expert
Yeah.
organizations
Sure.
that you can call in for an opinion to support, what we're trying to do is help.
Okay.
That includes attorneys,
Yeah.
real estate developers, anyone you can find.
Yeah, the safety on that, in that area is huge. I mean, just now, the way the road is, putting that many residents in there is just, it's insane.
That will almost certainly be a big issue with the planning
Yeah.
board, is in sight lines and the increased level of traffic. Not to mention the fact that, you live in a part of town which is fairly remote.
Right,
It's not the kind of an area where you certainly don't typically expect people living in duplexes to want to live. When you have workforce housing, which realistically, I doubt it. Maybe the duplexes are planned that way. But this is a long ways from it.
yeah.
One thing I have to question, if duplexes are even allowed up there, because on the conservation subdivision regulations, it says attached and detached single-family homes. We all know what a detached one, but what is an attached single-family home? They don't have a definition in their zoning guidelines at
I
all.
don't know the answer to that. I'd have to read it again, but you sound like you have that. That's a question.
I looked
for
at
the
that
planning.
just to find out, my own curiosity.
Yeah.
Because they have on the zoning regulations, they have all sorts of definitions of what terms mean.
Right.
They have one for duplex. They have one for a single family dwelling. They don't have one for an attached dwelling. And then you go onto the internet, you do some searching, you'll find out the big difference between a duplex and an attached dwelling is, on an attached dwelling, they share an external wall, but they're each on their own lot of land. And when you sell it, you sell your piece of land with your house. So as I'm reading, duplexes are not allowed, because if they were allowed, since they had a definition for duplex there, why didn't they put down that duplexes are allowed in that situation?
Be sure you look at that in the context of the conservation subdivision, because the way the land is split up is different, and there isn't necessarily a piece of land that goes along.
Well, with these houses there are, there's 20,000 square feet lots.
Right, but not with the duplex.
Okay, and then the next thing in the subdivision guidelines is you can't mix groups with individual house lots on the subdivision or conservation subdivision.
That's true, but they can treat, this came up at something I was at the planning board for the last time. They can treat those as two different subdivisions. So all good questions. I wish we were the experts that could answer you, but we're not.
We're just picking your brain, you know that, right?
You're welcome. We just don't have much to offer.
Do you issue recommendations once you've finished your work?
We do. Again, they don't have to take them. lately they've been paying more attention to what we say. Sometimes they ignore us completely, but, you know, we will definitely make recommendations, and that's why we appreciate your input. I mean, you know, we recognize that we can't stop development. We can't, you know, just keep things the way they are, again, short of, you know, somebody else coming in and buying the land. But, you know, we try to get as much out of it as we can. And certainly we prefer to see half of it developed, half of it conserved than none of it conserved.
And actually, it's well more than half.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Which is good.
Right, right. So, I mean, assuming that the conservation subdivision is what's going forward, I'm interested to hear specific concerns you have with that design. You know,
We
what,
have, overall concerns about the effect. We prepared a statement, you know, message for you.
Sure.
Okay. I'm Mike Camille. I'm a resident, Canyon Back Road, number 237. My Susan, her maiden name's Booty. She's part of the Booty family, which has lived for 10 generations on the farm directly across from the site. I am speaking on behalf of everybody.
I'm good.
Okay. As you know, these are both class 5 unimproved roads of aggregate, both designated scenic roads. We're talking about Canyon Back Road, Southern's Road. The express intent of scenic roads is to maintain the antiquity of their character, rural character. And the proposal will drastically change life on the roads. It will bring significant safety issues, wildlife, water extraction, and other issues that we feel must be explored. We feel there's a question of fairness as to whether these two roads should bear this disproportionate share of units to be built in Barrington. And further, whether proposed construction meets statutory and other requirements. As we said earlier, the butters to the farm received letters on the 23rd regarding proposed development. And I have to say, the neighborhood was shocked. The first meeting here is just 5 days later, and so we kind of we're feeling things are moving rapidly. It's concerning us. Some of the concerns we would just like to slow things down. Okay. We'd like more time because we'd like to consider some of the detailed information. Some people obviously have a lot of information about the property. We'd like to gather this information and bring it to you so that we can have, when we make decisions about this, we can make sure they're well considered and thought through. So with all of this in mind, we're requesting that you might provide us up to 3 months of time to gather information to bring this to you. So that's our message, and that's what we thank you for listening to us.
Sure, sure. Well, again, you really need to present that to the planning board.
Yes.
I assume you'll do that.
Yes.
You know, and again, we can't determine the schedule. It's really the planning board.
Okay.
Like I said, I think our existing planning board is relatively responsive. They, you know, certainly with this much community concern, I think that it won't move through that quickly.
Okay.
Right, I mean, just, you know, the fact that they will have, we will request an environmental study, that does take time.
And soils and else.
Right.
Perks that get. And we could request that.
Okay.
Does that include the aquifer, the study for the wells?
It can be a hydrology study. You can request that.
Well, we're talking about if there's 174 units, there's 2.4 people live in each
Yeah,
household.
that's a lot of
Multiplied
stuff.
by 100 gallons. I represented, I'm an attorney, I represented Save Our Groundwater when they were fighting that.
Right.
And this would add 42,000 gallons a day extracted from aquifer. Who knows what impact that would have on people and on the site itself.
Mhm.
So we would certainly want a hydrology study.
I mean, this is proposing more houses for this area than exist there now.
Right.
And they're all in one spot.
Absolutely. Beautiful, pristine.
Right. Yeah.
Other comments, other things people want to bring up?
Just a quick question. Is the applicant here? It's not amongst us, but online or something?
Not,
don't think
no,
so.
not that we know of.
And is that typical?
Yes.
It depends. I mean, some of the larger developments, we've had them come in, but not, sir, it's always,
They usually
Acknowledged.
wouldn't come in at this point. They would usually come in once they've addressed the planning board once.
yeah, that's probably true.
Yeah.
And we expect we probably will hear from them just because it's such a large development. If they don't want to, we'll invite them in. Make sure we get a chance to pick their brains.
Do you complete your work before the January 9th meeting or does it continue after?
No, I mean, it's good, obviously, if we have comments early on, the things we think can help the process. We can and probably will submit them before then, but certainly have other opportunity, I think. on
But
this.
realize these plans are very incomplete, so there's no
Right.
way that we could
Yeah.
conclude, our
Yeah.
decision-making process based on, anything close to
Yeah, at
this.
this point, our comments would probably be, hey, where are the buffers, where are the, details? We can't make sense of this, and that happens a lot. I mean, we get all kinds of plans that aren't really, up to snuff, and so, we'd certainly make some inquiries about that.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So can you explain the benefits of having a scenic road and what this could potentially have for an impact on from your perspective as a board?
Well, again, it's not something that we have been directly involved in, I guess.
You mean what protections are afforded a scenic road
So I mean,
classification?
I'm assuming you have more knowledge than we do about
Well,
the scenic roads.
I wouldn't assume that. I mean, just because we haven't been involved, I don't know how the Old Southers Road got designated. I mean, was anybody here involved with that or?
Yes,
Yeah.
we had requested this back years ago, and I think it's through the conservation people that, that was put in just to have, they're 1800s roads, they're what we call a 3-rod road. They're not wide enough to pave them and leave any stone walls intact and things like this, so try to preserve an area in the town where people do walk, and there's a lot of people walk that road.
Right.
It's very common.
Yeah.
I don't see how you could ever, you're not gonna bring it up to where it can handle this, with
Yeah.
what say now.
And you'd expect people moving in would want a paved road. I mean, that's often the way
Yeah.
it goes is that
Right.
they put pressure on.
And I know
But
that one of
we,
the.
that was to preserve the roads, it limited, they could cut trees, but they had to talk to us about it.
Right.
Some of these things could happen.
One of the criteria of a conservation subdivision is visibility from the road. And I would be surprised if this narrow forested buffer here meets the requirement. That'll be something that we'll look at.
The fact is, up in front of my place, Bill, it's a 2-rod road.
Yeah.
I've actually gone out and measured it.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
that's not
I
surprising.
measured it where the new bridge is going. Yep, it's a 3-rod, they got 45 feet
Yeah.
there, but you're gonna destroy a
I-
lot of rock work to do it.
Yeah, I measured from the stone wall to the stone wall, and it's about 33 feet.
Yeah.
Whoever built the stone walls knew where to put them.
Yeah.
But it's a 2-rod.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
just a corner of town that doesn't make sense for this to be going there. To try to pull out on Route 9 mornings, you can set that 2-3 minutes, but put 100 cars out lined up. This whole
Yeah,
road
it's
to
hard to
get out of it.
imagine.
It's just none
Getting
of
in
this is
and out,
real,
right.
realistic of making a lot
I
of
mean,
sense.
we don't directly deal with traffic issues, of course,
Yeah.
but, it's certainly part of
Yeah.
the mix.
Yeah.
That's something the
Speak up.
planning board is very
Yeah.
concerned about. is
Yeah.
traffic issues.
But no, I think we only have 3. I think Cooper Road is a scenic road, and Canaan Bath and Old Canaan. I don't know if you got any others down.
I think there's like 3.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah. I know Cooper is.
So this, I was looking at the last published from what I could see, 2004 schedule. And it was Corbett Road at the time. And back Canaan Road, Canaan Back Road, Cooper Road.
Yeah.
Those were class 5
designated, not all were designated scenic.
The idea was a safe place for people to walk, things like that. And the rural area, we're still running around with farm tractors up there and equipment's 10 feet wide. It doesn't mix with.
It's clear that
the
it's
modern-
designated scenic for a very important reason, and that's to maintain the rural character and the antiquity
Yeah.
of the area.
Who designates that? Is that the Department of Transportation or the scenic?
NHDOT.
The state doesn't.
Yeah, we should certainly
Yeah.
look at the rules on that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, a lot of those kind of things don't
Yeah.
have.
Well, it's been quite a while since it went through. I think I've got a copy of
Painted
it
back road.
Okay,
at home. You probably do too, because I think
well,
a
you know.
lot of this is done through you people.
Yeah, but we don't have I guess we have a sort of a repository, but a lot of things with the move of the town hall and, you know, we've had turnover, of course. And none of us were around when that was, I mean, we might have been in town, but we weren't on the Conservation Commission. I do occasionally confer with my predecessors on the commission, but we're a little short-handed at the moment as far as you know, our institutional knowledge, so could certainly do some more work on that. Okay, well, we really appreciate all your input. You know, we'll be working on this and be glad to get, I don't know if you can, you have a letter, is that?
I have the printout of what I just said. As long as you leave it with you.
Sure, if you have a copy, that would be great. At the very least.
We will also be representatives in planning board.
Right, yeah. Leave it with our secretary. You're all welcome to stick around the rest of the meeting, but I understand if you want to move out or if you've been standing around.
Yeah, thank you.
Definitely have our ear.
And if we have further questions or observations, who do we go to? Is it, do we come back to you or?
Yeah, again, the planning board is the more direct route. You can certainly contact us. I can never remember the email.
You have a business card or point of contact?
Yeah.
You know how to get it.
I guess it would be.
I do. I wasn't gonna sick the crowd on you. But, yeah, tell them what it's got all that contact info.
And I think it's on the.
We probably could walk into the planning office and see a
You'll see a
map of this laid out there at this point.
I would think so.
I don't check it every day, but.
They should have hard copies of all of this.
It's so new to us that we're, you know, each of us is feeding into, what about this, what about that? So and what are we going to investigate and who is good to ask about? You know, we're just trying to pull all the stuff together.
What's that?
Tim?
5 years ago, but
Yeah. I like. There are a couple times. Lake Association.
Directly affect.
No, but
Yes.
it
was the brother, I think, that was brother of the owner of the grain store.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
He's probably.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. One of them is actually in a butter.
I don't know.
It's land, it's on the backside of it, I guess.
The original is 83.
Self should have been awfully nice to get stretch along Bow Hill.
They
But
definitely are.
I mean, connect the Leighton Forest to the Stonehouse Forest.
Right.
This would
Yeah.
make a good.
No, I'm sure they are interested. I haven't talked with them just yet, you know,
Yeah.
what level of interest. But it's clearly, and they're,
I mean, that would be an area that would
Oh,
be
yeah.
great for the conservation, to get more so than just using up the swampland by giving it to you.
yeah, yeah.
I'm sorry, I
Speaking
didn't
of
get a chance to
stuff.
walk your
Yeah,
property last time.
yeah,
I was
yeah.
scheduled to do it. and
Yeah,
had
I mean, they, you know, they have a
to-
lot of land in Barrington. They want to try to connect as
I'll
much.
be
as
happy to
possible.
join you anytime.
Yeah, we all do.
We've hit most of the corners, I think.
Yeah, I know it's a good report. I got it.
Yeah.
But,
We'll see you.
Yep.
See you next spring.
yeah, sure.
Always makes the Christian prayer a little interesting with two of us.
now, we have houses on all four sides and the middle one gets the road. Because it's
Yeah.
grandfathered. That's-
But this.
Thank you. No,
Walking trails. Well, we just look at all, we'll see. 10, 15 year and now it's like, yeah, good questions.
If it doesn't go through. Your population should.
Yeah. The oaks are gonna start coming out the saplings. Yeah, sure, I guess.
Yes, Roger's my.
Yeah, I don't know why not.
Also my brother, also my nephew. I just knew what Jack would be. So it didn't have it full up, popped into outer space and.
It goes on the holidays.
we found that on the website.
Okay.
This is for you.
Yeah, that's true.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you. You could join us.
Yeah,
If you'd like.
Maybe this be rock people.
Yeah.
Well, that's how it happens, you know.
Well,
But they put a lot of money in effort into it.
it says
It's like
that
it's
they
pretty-
met with the planning board once before in November, and November
They say that?
14th.
Yeah,
We
I saw
last met with you on
sometime.
November 14th, to discuss the project as part of the
Yeah.
conceptual review.
Infrastructure.
Well, it must not have been a formal meeting. I don't think it,
It's just awesome.
yeah, I didn't know that they said the planning board. I know the other,
And then once again,
it just says town staff.
well,
Oh, and
two
it's-
planning board members, Barrington, New Hampshire.
Yeah,
I-
but
I-
this is the letter introducing everything. Yeah.
I don't know, I would like to ask about that, if this was presented, shouldn't we have known something about this before? I know you
Well,
had sort of. heard-
again, I don't think it was presented. I mean, and again, it's not clear to me if they're saying they've talked to the planning board prior. They just say town staff, which I had heard rumors or had heard that
Where are you
Well, they have a
saying, Tom?
very
that
former.
third paragraph, in addition to meeting with you, we have preliminary meetings of fire
Linda
chief.
Gresham must have had an inkling, because remember when she was here, that was her closing comment was,
Oh,
you
yeah.
guys better look into. the
Yeah,
whole
I'm
process."
sure
So
rumors are going.
It's, yeah,
Like I said, I heard from the select board themselves.
This is the one.
So it may be they had some informal thing, but it's supposed to be a public meeting, right?
Right, yeah, no, there is no such thing as an informal thing.
Yeah, right. Yeah, unless you just meet with the chair or something. I mean, they could.
Yeah, but this is to discuss the project as part of conceptual review.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, what?
Yeah, that is curious. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't see that long. Yeah,
So we should ask.
all right. And I assume requests that we get a review.
I have a totally off
Yeah.
top question here, but was that Mr. Williams? Is that the son?
It must.
That's
be.
what he said
So
of the original one.
Original
is it
founder. of
Carla
Rhode Island,
Williams? Must be
I
his
assume it's related.
stepmother?
I guess So, yeah.
Says his name is
Do you know?
Colin.
I'm sorry.
He said his name is Colin.
But the woman, one of the owners of the property is Carla.
Carla Williams is the one that is doing.
Yeah, she's
the-
listed.
Yeah, she's listed as the one
Right.
putting this owner,
Yeah,
Carla
so it
Williams. So
may be
I'm
a family.
thinking it must be,
It might be a
I'm
sister.
guessing that's, so
You know,
when did Mr. Williams, I'm just curious, pass
I
away?
I don't know.
Because if you go on the website when it was for sale, it acted like he was still there,
Yeah.
so I'm just curious when this all transpired.
yeah, and how it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Is
obviously.
this the?
Some Williamses are not.
Well, I'm assuming,
It must have. Huh?
well, that Carla Williams just inherited it and
Yeah,
she's the
that could
one,
be, right.
that's the way it looks, like
Yeah.
it says owner Carla Williams.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember, I don't know if you people recall, but when this house, so this is the house, this is the house. there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Lost.
Okay. Yeah, it's near that. That's the little stock pond there, I guess. That,
I think it's right.
yeah, it's right in there. right on top of the hill.
But this house went up for sale a few years ago. I remember talking to Brian about it. You know, it was for something like $4 million.
Oh, it's like
It's
6
the
million or
six-
something.
six
Yeah,
million
it
something.
is. Yeah.
They dropped it to 4.5.
Oh, okay.
Whatever. I mean,
Yeah.
it's whatever the market will bear. Yeah, so it's not clear how that all transpired.
No,
But, you know, it's not necessarily our.
not right.
No.
No, it's not our concern. I mean, it is.
Yeah, me too. I was gonna ask him, so.
Well, I
are you
thought
the
this
same
could be a little
ones?
touchy, like,
Yeah.
all I could think of was stepmother maybe, or, no.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, you know, sibling, I
Yeah.
mean, things happen, right?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
And unfortunately, yeah, there isn't much history on the house or the land here.
Right.
And there's one transaction, basically, that's it in 2018. You know, clearly there was more than that, but it's not shown here. So we don't know. It would be interesting. We always like to know this stuff.
I-
but-
Yeah.
But I felt bad when he said it wouldn't have been my
I
dad's
know.
intention, that's.
Yeah,
what
at
we-
first I thought, oh no,
Yeah.
maybe he's the owner, so playing to everybody else, yeah. So. I trust you don't have any inside
I'm learning a
knowledge
lot.
on that. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, well, we should probably move on, or do you want to,
Are you going to go to that meeting? Please,
Yeah.
I don't have to be the one to
yeah,
go.
they've done plenty, I mean, I'll definitely plan on going, I just have had conflicts.
Yeah,
Other
yeah.
other Tuesdays, but that Tuesday I can make it. Should we submit at least some questions, I guess? Seems like it'd
Good.
be good to get something done in
I
writing.
think we definitely have to question that.
Would you be willing to write up a list of, I mean, you seem to have the best handle on some of them. Well, relatively.
Okay.
Nice, too.
Yeah,
As far
no,
as the yield plan and all, I mean, you know, doesn't sound like there's much, I mean, we don't know the rules, but we should certainly say, wait a minute, you know, how many of these lots are?
right, it looks, those do seem to be steep slopes, but the fact of the matter is, there isn't a contour interval stated
Yeah,
on the
you're right.
map, so.
Yeah, I suspect they're fairly small
Well,
intervals,
what that guy said is a lot of it's steep.
yeah. But as we know from Young Road, that didn't stop them from carving it up. pretty good.
It's certainly environmental report, soil report, perk report.
What, do you know?
Aquifer study, hydrology study.
Yeah.
Scenic
Okay,
road
give me
study,
that.
environmental-
Give me that list a little slower.
Well,
Soil study,
certainly, soil quality, perk study,
ecological study,
Ecological.
assessment.
environmental assessment. Hydrology study, aquifer study, and scenic road issues.
Yeah, that's,
I think
that's,
I think that's a huge.
I mean, if we were involved
I
in
think
the
that's a huge
designation, then I guess we have some.
there
say.
must be restrictions on the
No.
basis of
I
that.
mean,
or-
that's just nothing.
You think so? I mean, they make such a big deal about cutting down one tree.
I just think that's
Well,
300
a lot
houses,
more than that.
300 houses going down the block.
Yeah,
Lord,
I can't imagine.
I can't imagine. I can't imagine.
They wouldn't pave it and widen.
Well, yeah, but can they?
Yeah, that's a question.
I don't think they can.
Yeah.
Who
But then
knows? Who
again,
knows? But who knows? I mean, who knows? So,
Yeah,
those are all issues. that we-
I'll look into what I can.
yeah,
Before
and
the
I'll-
ninth.
I'll- you can just get that to me before the 9th, I guess.
Well,
Submit.
yeah.
Yeah,
a
well
good bit,
before.
enough for you to prepare.
Yeah. Great, appreciate that.
Oh, 6 or 7 bridges needed for this plan.
Well, that was the yield plan. And again, they would have to get permits and all. Obviously, they can't just blow through there. I mean, you know, they
Right.
say currently they're just logging road bridges.
Yeah,
But the conservation plan doesn't involve any additional filling, I don't think.
yeah, they do have a crossing of
Yeah.
private wetlands there. Is that
Well, 2 of them.
here, and
Well,
here?
3, no, sorry. Yeah, I mean, there's quite a few.
There's quite a few.
And
They're
so
all, some of the lots have mostly private, well.
Yeah,
we should have the planning board give us a tutorial on the whole yield plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was,
Perspective, because we don't, this is all new, I guess, to all of us.
Yeah. Well,
you guys were knowledgeable. I appreciate
No,
that.
no, I mean,
I was like,
Oh, we have.
Really, this came up with the Young Road development, and that's the first time I ever heard of any of this. And I,
oh, we should go, we should get.
Well, I must have done one with the development out
Do a
here.
little homework.
I'm sure that was before my
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. And it wasn't before my time, but I don't remember having a discussion about the field. I mean, again, I'm sure they just showed us a map like that and said, okay.
Yeah.
And, they didn't seem to be going heavily into wetlands.
Right.
That much different. But anyway, yeah.
Well, they have a very, very steep hill to climb with respect to the very united group of neighbors and massive.
Yeah, that sounds
So,
like it.
good luck with that.
I hope they organize as well as the Nepa Lake.
Yeah,
Association.
they make us training sessions and people like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with the Nepa Lake Association?
No.
So there is a development that was also very recently proposed, also, much larger scale than we like. There's a lot more issues there. But it will directly affect Nepa Lake, and the Nepa Lake Association immediately sort of formed a task group, if you will, or something, and they were very organized.
They're their own attorneys.
They do have an attorney. I think he might live there, so he's an owner. But they presented to the planning board in a very organized fashion. They did a great job. See what comes of it.
One of the benefits of the homeowners association.
It's a lake association. I don't really know much about it.
Yeah, I don't know if they formed, about other lake associations. I mean, I don't know when the issue of Nipple Lake is really sensitive. It has a long history of environmental havoc, I guess you'd say, if you've heard about it at all. But they have this blue-green algae that comes up, cyanobacteria that's very toxic. And anyway, they've been particularly sensitive because of that. So there's been a lot more concern about protecting the area around the lake watershed. And they're just a high-powered group of folks. I mean, I guess, living around a lake, you tend to get people with more means, I guess, than average. So they're pretty protective of it. For good reason. There's this development looked pretty bad from what we saw. It's not that far from here.
No,
think you
no.
can't scroll up the map, but it's
Right.
over there. It's
It's
to the side of the lake.
Depot Lake's biggest.
right up here.
Biggest
Yeah,
problem
there
has
you go.
been the golf course above Depot Lake.
Right.
And
Yeah,
the
so there you
drainage
go.
from that golf course. Coming
Yeah.
down to the lake, that's really been a huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
issue.
But this development, you
You know, I wasn't, but the owner of that development is the guy that owns the golf. course.
Right,
So he-
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that
They
block,
can
that
come in there.
triangle right there.
Yeah.
No, the next one down, that's Landry.
Yeah.
So we just spent all this money protecting the Landry.
This is what we just.
I read about that,
protected.
Right.
And
That's
the
great.
Nepa Lake Association was a good part of that.
Oh, they initiated it.
Yeah.
I mean, that does go back many years. I mean,
Right.
I was-
But yeah, this is the plot that there's a proposed development on. And it's a mess.
Yeah, it's all
I heard
uphill.
they made a great case.
They did.
Yeah.
They did.
Applying for it, so.
Yeah, well, we probably should move on.
Yeah.
It's nice.
Yeah. we want more to do.
Yeah, I guess we'll go back to approval of the minutes. You gotta look at them and. think.
Yeah, I read them.
I'm not
I
sure
wasn't there. Sorry, I
It's
wasn't
not-
there.
it's gonna help either.
It's okay to you?
Are we ever gonna have, access, teams here that?
It's a good question. I actually got an inquiry on it.
Ever gonna have access via Zoom here, if you're out of town to come into a meeting?
Well, this, you do
Theory.
the team.
Yeah, but last time when Ken tried to come on.
I could-
That was because it was
Is that
an
his?
irregular meeting date,
Oh,
so
right.
kind of hadn't set up
Yeah,
Okay,
the appointment.
well, I tried to get it.
Oh, that was why. Normally, so if we're meeting on our, what we have to do is we have to remember if we have an irregularly scheduled meeting, we have to tell Connor to put it in. So probably Tiffany can too, but I can't anymore. Took away my scheduler identity, which was just an accident.
Yeah, so that was really the hang up there.
Yeah, and Ken, I could have explained to him, you know, how to put in the passcode, the meeting ID and the passcode, but we were already in the middle of the meeting and it was just too much of a mess.
Yeah. Well, we're on.
Gary, you probably would have known how to do that.
Well, there was a link and I tried, clicked on the link or.
Yeah, well, the main thing is having Teams, it makes a difference whether you have Teams on your computer or not, because they have an option where you can just go to your browser. It's not.
I have Teams on my
Yeah.
computer and it should work.
Yeah, no, if you would have called me, I could have given you or texted me or emailed me, I could have given you the meeting ID and the passcode. Which.
Well, anyway,
Yeah.
I apologize. It's a meeting I wanted to make, but I know we got a lot of stuff.
And we don't know how many other people have tried and couldn't make it. I said I did have an inquiry. I didn't know what to tell her because I had so much trouble with it. At least for
Normally you can
schedule.
use the one, this Barrington
Right.
/CC, that gives access to in the time slots for
Right.
our normal time slots. There's a setup for that.
Yeah.
But I don't even remember how I managed to set up the irregular one. Might have still been scheduled.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Believe me, I wish it was Zoom,
yeah.
but it's not.
Just on this general topic, though, I just remind folks, I guess when you set it up, when we're running, it is recording. Evidently, there is a
I believe
video
it is,
record,
that's right.
so just so you know, that
Yeah.
we should be
Yeah.
careful not to state anything that
And
we
there
don't want.
actually were a few people that were dialed in
yeah.
during, they're all gone now.
Oh, really? Back when we were. Okay.
Yeah, they're all gone now, but there was at least 3 people
Okay.
who were dialed in.
It did work.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
I
Yeah.
don't
I
know
did
if-
have a question I want to ask for the last minute.
So,
The treasurer's report, balance is 499,000. Is that after making the payment to?
yeah, I believe so, right? I
That's
think
after
you
the
said
fact.
that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I did get a report from Jack. We got
I have it
14.
here.
You have it? Yeah.
He had interest of 1,358.60, so the balance is 500,587.46.
Yeah, so we're at even 500 almost. So, okay,
$1,000 a month, that's okay.
yeah, it's one nice thing about having this money.
Yeah.
Hold on to. Okay, so anything else that's
No.
just so we'll approve the minutes as submitted. Okay. And I guess that's the treasurer's report, such as it is. And the new business I have down is really just the annual town report, what goes into the booklet that they give out at polls. And since this is my first year doing it, I thought I'd get some input. I was hoping Ken would be here, who wrote the last one, but they did give some suggestions on it's basically, what you did last year and what you plan to do this year and what your future expectations are, that sort of thing. So I'll look at what he said last year.
Yeah, pull up the town report. This is what I'm gonna do for the energy committee. I'm gonna use the others as examples.
Right.
I know sort of, I know what projects we had. I sort of have some ideas for what we're gonna do moving forward. I think you can do the same thing here.
Yeah, so that's one that,
And I'll add the Landry, the easement for the Landry property into our list of those properties that they need.
yeah,
That out.
yeah,
Update that.
yeah,
Yeah, the monitoring will be, you definitely want to get the monitoring stuff in there.
I'll give you a summary of the monitor.
Yeah, that'd be great. Just a paragraph.
Yeah, just a quick paragraph of what we're doing.
I don't suppose there were any issues worth mentioning or But yeah, that would be great if you could do that. The other thing is photos, if we have any recent photos of any of the lands, I guess, or people out hiking. Again, with that, I'll just drop a note to Jack, I guess, because I figure he probably
has.
I don't know whether the Trails Committee has its own section in the board or not. I'll look for it, but I know they sent it on to Charlie Tatum. Yeah,
Oh, it is mentioned separately in the list that we
Yeah.
got.
was it?
Was it
I
the
didn't
Barbara?
notice that.
I'm not sure you sent us that.
Yeah,
Notification.
Tiffany.
Was it Tiffany?
Well, anyway, obviously, we don't want to steal their thunder if they're doing their own reports. But I don't know if you have any photos from
I have some.
monitoring.
Yeah, sure.
You know, any that look interesting. They say, you know, they love to have any photos, even if they aren't directly related to our work.
No, I'll do it. I have to.
So here's,
Some of the send them on.
here are the sections. This is from Tiffany.
Okay.
Maybe one of them.
Yeah, I mean, they, it wasn't,
Trails Committee.
yeah, so it was,
So Charlie's has got that.
yeah, okay. Yeah, so I just will let them do their spiel. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I just don't think I have any recent photos. I submitted some for the previous one, but
Send you the picture of the beaver dam breach.
yeah. Yeah,
I did send you.
yeah, I did see that. It's a nice picture of a beaver dam. Okay. All right, well, I guess that, I don't know if I guess in previous years, we've done a list of activities for the new year thing. We don't, obviously don't have a lot of people tonight, but I guess we could do that next week, but you know, we don't have to get into much detail. I guess.
Let's do that. Let's ask Ken to, if he can at least phone in on that.
Yeah, yeah, that would be good.
One thing I would like to see for, I know there's our funds are reserved for the Richardson Dam, maybe project, whatever. in the Future, but since the Trails Committee is an integral part of our group, but they have no funds.
Yeah, yeah, we
I
should-
think that we should allocate some money to them,
Yeah,
we could,
like
yeah.
$5,000 or something, whatever, okay?
talk to them, ask them.
Because I mean, they
Yeah.
have needs and
Yeah.
they maybe.
Well, I would assume they'd come to us if they, you know, had a specific thing that they want, that they can't
Maybe.
pay for. I mean, I would, you know, they're a subset of us. It's
Yeah,
not-
you would
it's
think,
not
but
like
I'm kind of surprised they haven't because
Yeah.
they've done, you know, I mean, they've usually built things, right? They built the, yeah, they put those benches up all over the place. They-
Yeah.
Yes,
think
it's
that, you know,
interesting.
Yeah,
Something on the content.
yeah, I would think that's fairly small, so $50,000 or something.
No.
So, yeah. And it's kind of a shame that we haven't previously done something like that. Or,
It's a great.
yeah, I mean, that doesn't sound familiar at all. I mean, I guess in the past, they've maybe.
I
come
think
to
they
us.
just asked,
Here
that's
and there,
what they've
yeah.
done, is just request.
Yeah. But it just seemed like it'd be good to give them a little working capital or something.
Anyways, give them a budget. If they spend it, fine. If they don't, fine.
Yeah.
And not great, at least we. Very clear that we can support them.
Okay. Any other suggestions for next year? I mean, again, we'll discuss it more, but it's,
Yeah.
there's something I
Need
can
more
put in the
people to help monitor these hikes, okay? So
Yeah, yeah. More
I think it's a month
volunteers.
off because I hurt my back.
Oh,
Well,
But I'm
I
working
mean,
on
one of the
recovery,
things that
Let
we
it stay
we
now
might
forever.
want to look into is GIS tools,
yeah, and actually there is
training.
Ken just sent me a thing. Yeah, it's a program where you can get, I don't know if it gives you specific funds, but they provide some. I can't remember now what agency it is.
You know,
I think it's a
I
state.
looked at the Garmin things and I really wasn't that impressed, but I even with the top of the line garment, and so
Oh,
why
no,
didn't-
no, what I'm talking about is so this came up with the wetlands buffer issue.
Oh, okay.
And dealing with the mapping and the overlays and, the fact that if we could do more with that, we could be more specific and I'm sure it would come in useful for reviewing maps like these. If we could have overlays onto the state maps.
Yeah,
that
well,
were
that
not-
would be good.
Yeah.
Something that would be,
I don't know anything about that. I mean, I'm sure you
Yeah.
can do it, but I don't have a clue.
Yeah, no, this was, I guess I didn't CC you, but I sent it on to Ken and I said, hey, wouldn't this be helpful for the buffer project? And I would have thought I CC'd you. Check. Anyway,
I'm
it's
never
something
gonna
that's,
overlook anything.
I don't think you would have seen it. I hope you see my emails. Yeah, all right. Well,
They're in the auto delete.
yeah, right. Yeah, okay, well, I'll send it along. I don't know if it's a significant thing, but again, I assume it's people that have a lot more resources than we do. They said that's what they,
You may be
that's the kind of thing.
surprised.
Yeah, well, and even just getting a workshop together.
Yeah.
Really help if they know how to do that.
Right.
So I'll send that along.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, that does seem like one of the things we could, among many others, that we're deficient at or never gonna know enough about it. Yeah, okay, well, that gives me a start, so thanks. We did have one other case before the planning board, and folks got to look at it all. It's kind of an odd, it's, I guess, just kind of a repackaging of the existing layout. of
But
the-
it's not clear to me, I mean, they have to make some kind of a proposal about what they're going to do to reorganize the conservation land.
Well, that's the thing that seemed to be missing.
Yeah.
They came up, this, it's called a homestead development, or at least it was called that a few years ago. And it's off of Route 4. What do you say? It's kind of near.
It's right near the Nottingham town line. Yeah,
Yeah.
Also,
and-
you go up Mary Hill, you can get there through Mary Hill to going through
Yeah.
Gary or there.
But it's right near the other pond, Mendham's.
yeah,
And it's Mendham's Landing is kind of their immediate abutter, and that's where this conservation land was, I guess, intended to add to that. And I drew up a handwritten map based on, I think it's on the co-occurrence map or something, but I assume this is the existing, it's that whole block there. And so they're planning to kind of glom together some of these lots. And I don't know, it wasn't even clear what they intend to do with them.
No.
I mean, presumably they want to build on them, but
Yeah, they're gonna end up with fewer lots than there are. And they're gonna consolidate a bunch of them, but
and they've been doing this for a long time, the Gary.
well, they've been talking about it. The deal was that
They keep
the lands,
reconfiguring
this
it.
was a lands committee project to get that land sold.
Yeah,
And it's incredibly wet in a lot of the area. This, where you first come in, this is just really low and wet. There had been this huge stone pile here, apparently.
I think the map on the, I don't know if you went to the docket, the list, I think it showed what was in that package?
This thing?
Yeah, if you scroll down, I think they show,
Oh, I
Yeah,
forgot this was here. yeah.
now this isn't the development plan. This is from 20 years ago.
Right.
I went down and said, oh, 2004. But this is what they originally had in mind, right? And they even got permits to do all this wetland filling to create these roads, I guess. There's a number of,
Really? That's
culverts. yeah, so, so those are there, but the interesting thing is that, a good, well, I guess, I don't know if it was considered a conservation development, but they set aside these pieces of land. And for example, scroll down again, sorry, the lower right-hand corner there, those 4 lots, the corner, yeah, those, the 1.4, 1.5, and they list them in the ones that they want to consolidate or something. Well, that's all in the conservation easement, and my understanding is this is a real easement. It's not just a, deed something,
Right.
homeowner thingy. an easement that
It
the
is,
town,
it is a legal
Yeah.
conservation
Yeah.
easement, so the thought was that it could be restructured. So that, the land could be more realistically developed than what was done, what was done in the original plan. But, that will require the agreement of, the easement holder, the landowner, and the attorney general. That's what it takes to change an easement.
well, it's, even then, it's not that easy, right? I mean, my understanding is, yes, it's a.
If you can get agreement from those parties,
Yeah.
I think that's that's what it takes, but that's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah, I would assume, it would be done.
Well, and
Which simply would.
the town, I don't know who holds the easement. I assume the town does.
Yeah, I believe it does. It isn't on your list.
Well, that's not, no, that's not, I mean, we're. Man, I mean, we're right next to that with on Mendon's
The
Pond,
amendments,
but that's
yeah.
not an easement that we monitor.
This thing is so old
Yeah.
that it might just have fallen off the map as far as that
Not an
was
easement we
concerned.
monitor, nor, I'm not even certain it's on our list of.
I think I've seen it there. It's a area road is what they.
Yeah, there is a Gary.
Oh, but that's it.
But anyway, it's not on your list for monitoring, so.
No, that is not.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's a good question is how is I mean, I must say on the list, it's what John gave me. I know it had some designation on it. It's not just unclear, but yeah, I'll look into it. That'd be good. But anyway, I thought at the very least, we ought to say, wait a minute, you don't say anything about the easement. I didn't see any reference to it.
No.
That seems rather odd
that-
considering,
I was looking going, what is this?
right. I had questions about the way it got cut up to begin with, but, given that
Well,
at least want to maintain.
the sense was that they did a horrible job and that that if there was a reasonable proposal that the town could live with, that it would be worth pursuing.
Yeah.
But, and I don't know who owns it or.
No, well, what's the town, right? I mean, that was old, unless they
So
sold it.
the town might hold the easement, but there's a new.
Wasn't it on the list of towns?
It was, but it's not anymore.
Oh.
It was, that was the lands committee's job was to get it sold and they did.
Yeah, so presumably whoever's.
So he can tell us what happened.
I'm just curious if the buyers even know there's an easement on it, like, is it possible they could just?
It's hard to believe that it
I
wouldn't
know,
be
but-
in the deed or whatever. Anyway, that would be the one question I'd ask. What else do we want to say or know about it? They're not being very specific, presumably house lots, but.
Are they going before the planning board? Is this?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's on the same schedule with the other one.
What are all those colors?
I know, it's like a child's coloring book. Yeah. I think those are the lots that they want to consolidate.
Yeah, I assume that, so here
Yeah.
they're consolidating
Probably
all of these.
Color coded, but there's no key to what colors
Yeah,
represent what.
Right, they do have a list of what lots they're merging.
Right,
So
right.
if we go through, maybe
Yeah.
we should do that.
Well, I did look at, it's in the handwritten
Right.
thing up higher up there. And the first one I saw was the ones that are in the easement. Several of them. are in the easement. Yeah, so it's kind of odd. You see the one at the bottom to merge lots 1.6, 1.5. That's that corner that I was referring to.
So I think, at the meeting, what the question has to be the
Yeah.
same thing, what is the story with the, conservation? This is, and
I'll try to come down.
I also would assume that this is completely inadequate for any kind of site plan.
Okay.
There is an
A brief-
impressive amount of wetlands there.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Just look at that.
yeah. I noticed the previous time we talked about the upper part. Go to the Second. Yeah, it doesn't, well, it looks like there's that funny wedge that's like all wetlands.
Yeah.
That is an easement, but again, I don't
Right,
know if it's on their list.
right. No, they were very careful about, you know, they tried to get as much of the wetland as possible into the easement of the
Yeah.
conservation area.
Although, you know, that one that's at the top of the cul-de-sac there, I mean, that's a lot of wetlands too.
Yeah.
And, you know, obviously you'd have to cross a wetland to get to some lot space.
Yeah.
But it's also contiguous, I guess, with a larger wetland on the other side of
Up
it,
here.
above the property. Yeah, that's like wetlands all the way down to the Menden's Pond, I guess.
Oh, okay.
That's what I remember, that it was, you know, so it seemed like, you know, if you want to try to maintain your, you know, land use protection, would have made more sense. But haven't been over there to see it all, so it's hard to know.
There was a lot more information as far as mapping went
Yeah.
available on this, and it included maps of the conservation area. Actually,
Was it in the docket?
it probably is. I mean, I didn't go back and look at all that because it was huge.
Yeah, it's the longest list I've ever seen, you know, for
Well,
something that's never gotten built or hardly. But
there, so this thing, it goes back.
just, you gotta scroll away.
It's,
Yeah, but most of it was a long time ago.
and yeah, actually,
So it's within the last decade.
but I suspect that there's a body of information that's only on paper. That
Okay.
hasn't been digitized. But when the lands committee was reviewing this, we had a lot of maps of this area. It went through multiple owners and iterations, and there was all
Yeah,
kinds of legal hassles.
right.
But I know that there is documentation on what is
It
conservation.
says draft easement, see it down at the bottom? See
Oh,
that?
yeah,
See what that says. Okay, it's First Amendment. Um, So that might make some reference to it.
yeah, it doesn't say.
Well, anyway, there must be other documentation somewhere.
I'll talk to Brian about this and see what he's got.
Yeah.
He has a lot.
Okay. All right, well, if there's anything that we ought to be bringing to the planning board, just let me know. Pass a note along.
I think for now, really just asking that question.
Yeah. Yeah, it's clearly fairly preliminary. Okay, so enough for that. As far as old business, talk about, I guess. Yeah, it's hard to remember what we've discussed previously at this point. But I don't think there have been any developments. I know Young Road got continued to late January.
Oh, it's continued again?
Yeah, I believe, I mean, that's what I thought. Somebody had told me that it was
No, I thought it
January
was,
25th or something, but
okay.
whatever that later meeting. But I'm not sure. And the Richardson Dam funding is kind of somewhat in limbo, as always. You know, I thought we'd already requested this ecological study. But yeah, I guess the deal was we didn't know what it was gonna cost, so we didn't put a dollar figure on it.
Oh, for the dam?
Yeah, we'd have to go back.
Did you appropriate up to a certain amount
No, I don't
already?
think we, I
No?
don't think we did. I mean, you could look at it.
What's the sort of what Ken was still handling.
Yeah, yeah, that's the thing. I was in charge, but something I could ask Ken about it. But anyway, you know, they're trying to figure whether to put something in on the warrant about funding Richardson.
Right.
Partial funding. The way they're going now is to set up a capital reserve that would, you know, be 50 grand or something. It wouldn't obviously cover the whole project, but at least it would create a,
Well, and they're
Budget line.
consolidating, you know, it would cover it would be a general dam fund. It wouldn't
Right.
just be Richardson, it would be the one over.
swings, yeah.
And, so,
I mean, there already is one for Swains. I don't know if it's specific to Swains, but
Well, isn't that what they were gonna check? And
yeah.
I think they said no, that they couldn't say it was specific to swings.
Yeah, so maybe they could just add to that one. Seems like it'd be simpler than trying to create a whole budget.
Is there a fund there already?
Yeah, because there was, isn't there, is it, do you know if that's happening or happened, that they were gonna fix the dam or do some kind
They worked on it. They did work on it, yeah.
Yeah.
But they keep it every year. I mean,
It's
the money's
maintenance.
always there, yeah.
of. But it always seemed to me, well, if they're doing it for Swains, why can't they, I mean, obviously there's more interest in Swains, but you know, it seems like Richardson ought to be added into that somehow. So anyway, that may or may not be happening. I guess we'll find out more. Rob knows more about it than we do.
Yeah.
Yeah, so monitoring, do you have any?
Well, I was gonna kick off my, I was planning on completing 13 hikes last year, and I should short one. Primarily because I have a pinched disc in my back and I can't hike right now. I'm going through therapy and I expect I'll be ready to start hiking again by the end of February. So I'll kick it off.
Yeah.
We'll,
So
we've
weather-
got like 14, yeah, the weather's fine, so I can maybe get an early start for this coming year. We have 14 hikes, I think, scheduled, 14 line hikes scheduled. Cover all the ones that has to be done yearly. And then the ones that are being done every other year, so. All on track. I've got everything filed with all the appropriate agencies.
Yeah, I was gonna ask.
Wallace just sent me. Oh, I gotta go back and read his email. I was like, wow. I thought that I had every acronym covered. Okay.
he blew you away.
Not one. I mean, there's a few more that escaped me that I thought
Yeah.
that I'm supposed to be reporting to.
Yeah,
I'm working on
it should be one per site. I don't think they.
No, oh, no.
But you gotta know each one, yeah.
You guys know each.
Because I've got an
Several
email
that-
requesting info. They didn't have specific like this site, but they just, you know, said you need to get all these in by the end of the month, so.
Yeah, well, I got that book from you and I.
I'm saying there was one from,
Friends of the
Forest Society,
Yeah,
there's one from-
they're covered.
yeah, yeah, okay. All right, great. You know, so let us know when you need folks to help
Yeah.
take some hikes. Okay.
The younger people here.
Yeah, again, on the wetland buffer
I just
project,
hit 79 yet.
yeah.
Can I ask you about your monitoring hikes?
Oh, sure.
Again, my name is Darlene. Again,
Gary.
Gary, so you take hikes to monitor the lands that you've already established or.
Well, there are ones that we are required, I guess, to,
Yeah, we have about
Take a look
20,
at it.
25 that we need to cover every. We have a 2-year cycle. Some have to be done every year, some could be, since we don't have enough people, I can't do them all myself. I try to. It's every other year, I do these monitoring hikes on the property.
So this is land that the town owns the conservation easement. Other property owners own the land, but the town owns the.
sometimes we
easement.
own the land too.
Sometimes that's a conflict. I hope that's not
Yeah.
true, but it may be.
You already showed that.
but so there are requirements on making sure that the land is being treated.
That's how you do it.
Yeah.
So we go out and try to hike the perimeters as much as we can of the property too. Because there's usually perimeters where things are usually not being. People dumping from off the property lines, that sort of thing, so. Try to ensure that that's not happening and just that the property is being. Not abused, there's I was telling, we had one just several months ago where. There was a hunter on the property with a RV, or not an RV, but a four-wheeler. And which was absolutely totally not allowed according to the easement. We had to tell them to get off the property. And call the state police, but anyway, so some things like that happen.
But usually it's not that.
Usually it's not quite that.
Yeah, and you don't.
You want to go?
Right,
You
so
want me- where-
I have
you-
several pairs of hiking boots.
Okay,
Good,
well,
yeah. Now we do fun hikes too.
what's
I
your,
saw it.
what's
yeah.
your, what's your,
I saw it. I can give it to you after the meeting.
okay, fine.
We are.
No, we're always looking for additional folks.
Yeah.
We're not always available or not able to get out and do it. So,
Not here all the time, so.
yeah, that's great.
Or we're
Okay.
just getting.
Yeah, I was gonna reference that too. I think that's it for old business. If somebody can think of anything else that didn't cover. Yeah, okay. Don't have any report from Trails Committee and the Lands Committee is also
Yeah.
still on vacation.
I, in their defense, I think Connor has to give them an assignment. I think that's part of the issue is they don't really have anything they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, so I mean. Yeah, well, it would be good at least to try to pursue that town forest project someday. No hurry, I guess. But looks like.
Here's my report on the isinglass. Guys, take a look at this.
I mean, you know, honestly, on that whole issue,
This is Lock Falls. Right after the big rain. Yeah. Lock Falls on the isinglass.
Wow.
It was amazing. I mean, it was amazing.
Is that from our side?
Yeah, that's on my side of you.
We have a very small easement. 4 years, yeah. Have you been to Lock Falls?
Not yet.
It's a nice hike. You have to get in there from Rochester. It's the main trail.
Well,
So
unless you know me.
I'm saying the official trail is through Rochester.
Mhm.
But it's, I guess, our biggest waterfall.
yeah,
You know,
I'd say it's a class 3 rapids going through my property, right?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I was out on the upper. Caleb lands and it was.
Did it go over 202? It wasn't 202.
Yeah, they did close. Yeah, there was some. I don't know if it actually went over. They were worried it would, but you know, after they rebuilt that bridge and
Yeah.
you think they would have put it a couple feet higher.
Yeah, yes, I know.
Yeah, it was seemed like almost record levels. I mean, even where I was, you know, I'm sure the trail on Caleb East is pretty. Correct.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It was amazing how much siltation, erosion was going on.
I didn't realize we had gotten as much that much.
Yeah,
rain
it's like 3.5 inches. That sound right?
in a day.
Yeah, it's quite a bit. Yeah, our pond went up about 6 or 7 inches. So
Yeah.
we go wreck the beaver dam again.
Now, what I was saying about the town forest thing, you know, as long as those 2 parcels aren't in danger of being sold, and that's a little hard to know. It sort of tamps that the expectation of those property owners were that if the town was interested, they could ask a fortune. We know that's not the case. But the more time that goes by with nothing happening, the less likely, the more they're likely to realize that, that's not gonna happen. So I think I am a little bit concerned that what some of the other abutters might, want to snap it up for their own purposes, which would not be great, but it hasn't happened yet. I don't really see why it could change quickly, but you never know.
Yeah.
Um,
Have we talked at all with SELT about, the connectivity issue? And 'cause it seems like that would be kind of an obvious
I
connection
think
to make. I mean,
someone has, because I know that I didn't talk to them, but I know that I was told that SELT is not interested in any trail development in that area. So that's a little different from land connectivity.
yeah, it's not necessarily a trail, but although I still think it'd be good to have a trail too.
I did too.
Yeah. You'd think they would want to eventually. I know
Just because the town forest is there, you would think that the town would like it. I
Right.
would hope that would have some sway, but I don't.
Yeah. I mean, there is an informal trail that goes almost to that corner,
Oh, is there?
but it's not on the maps or. I think it was
Oh,
always there.
you mean in the town forest there?
No, in Stonehouse Forest.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you can get like, almost into somebody's backyard there, but, I wasn't really scoping it out. I was just wandering around. It's an interesting area for us too. There's big old ledge back there.
I think some of the people that live on, would it be Swain
So,
Road?
right,
Yeah, I think they access it that way. and
Probably,
keep
yeah.
going.
Yeah, I think there must have been at least a snowmobile trail or something. Yeah, access for sure. So, the trails are there, they just may not want to become official.
Yeah.
You do have to cross the creek there, but somebody had actually built. I don't know if that was prior to. But it seemed to be a fairly recent, it's just a little bridge, 4 foot. Just to help you get over the creek. Anyway, we continued, so I guess that's all our business. Any sightings of note?
I had a good one. We had a barn owl and a hawk, and I wish I could tell you what kind of hawk, but it had a distinctive reddish breast with markings, and its head had a fair amount of reddish on it too. It
Was
was
it good size or?
it was good size. It wasn't small.
But you didn't see the tail, it was a red tail.
No, but the owl and the hawk were in the same tree.
Oh.
The owl didn't, was not at all concerned, but the hawk was really upset. They kept
It's
hopping
scary.
around and moving all over the place, and eventually it took off.
Yeah,
And,
that's interesting.
it really was fun to watch, and the owl was there for hours. The hawk was
Yeah.
there for maybe an hour.
Yeah,
It was fun.
yeah.
An hour in the middle of the day?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, they'll hunker down, that's
Right.
why it's not gonna move.
They're hoping for an easy mouse.
They gotta hang out somewhere.
That's interesting because I said, my neighbors, about a couple hundred yards away, have a massive oak tree. It's a beautiful, massive oak tree. It's a skyline. And a hawk landed in there the other day. I went to my book and I looked at, I could not figure out what type of hawk it was, but it stayed there for about an hour. And then the next day, a barn owl showed up and he parked there for like 3-4 hours looking for a squirrel and whatever.
Yeah.
It was in that big tree.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure they have certain branches, certain trees that they just own.
Yeah. No, and the hawk, it's common for hawks to be swooping around in there. We used to have a lot more owl traffic. Used to have an owl that would hang out regularly, but I think it probably got old and died. And yeah, I hope this one comes back. It's nice to have them around. We hear them all the time. So,
Yeah. Well, I've been noticing, not lately, but the red shoulder hawk is, besides the red tail, there's two that I think tend
Red
to
shoulder.
stick around, yeah.
think that
We
was,
heard one when we were out at Caleb. Yeah, somebody had the Merlin.
By Merlin, sure.
Yeah, and that's what came up. And,
Okay.
you know, yeah, I hear them all the time, but I didn't know what, that's how you would know if you
Right,
heard them.
right,
All
that, they, do they have, is it very distinctive from one species?
Pretty much, and I'm not real good on them, but I know, you know, red tails. It's the one you always hear in the
Right.
movies.
I got oversteller.
Green. And the one I know best actually is the broadwing, which is a higher squeaky
Oh,
sound, because we've had them in the backyard.
What's the hawk here? This is just a big brown bird. I mean, it's definitely a hawk.
Yeah, well, red tail
all
is the
brain.
most common.
That's the one.
But no, it's not. I mean, it's
not
not
a
a
red
red tail.
tail.
But it's maybe
Well,
a red tail.
I mean, no,
Maybe it's a
turkey.
turkey. Maybe it's a
vulture.
Jew. No, I know. I
I
know.
know, yeah, I figured.
But no, it's.
Those are the common ones. I'm sure there are others here and there.
But the trouble is that they change so much from their juvenile stage.
Well, I think
That's true,
It's-
yeah. And there are light phase ones.
It's really
Yeah,
high.
true,
Yeah.
yeah. And even, you know, eagles, you know, the immature bald eagle.
Right.
Yeah.
Looks smaller. There has a browner look or mottled, anyway. All right, well, I guess that's it.
No, I don't have the sightings. I did not want to interrupt your meeting, being my first one. Maybe you would have covered what I'm here for.
Yeah,
Just to hear, I'm just interested in knowing, what your findings as a commission are regarding the development group. Community Way project, tax number 235.
so it's the Christmas stuff. Well,
Yeah, I'm wondering what your findings are regarding the impact on the wetlands, any properties there.
I know we've seen the plans at one point.
We did, my recollection is that there were no wetlands in, that
Yeah.
they were obeying
Keeping
all
out
the
of it,
buffers.
Yeah, so I don't think we had any specific comments on it.
So you didn't have any future plans or concerns of it?
Well, not from a conservation standpoint. I mean, it's always the question of population, you know, it's a fairly large structure they're putting in there, but I guess it's kind of on hold, or that they had some issues with the, you know, financing and stuff, which,
I don't know
A lot of people are
what's
having-
planned to go in.
oh, it's like, it's 2 3-story buildings. And it's gonna be retail on the bottom and then
Apartments on-
Was
apartments
Was
up
this
above.
before my time?
Maybe, it was several years ago when they
Oh,
put it
yeah.
out. And it's like 3 dozen residences, I believe, so. You know, it seemed like pretty significant traffic and not to mention, and people were upset when they were clearing the land, and go, wait till they start building it, you know, it's gonna. You know, tower over the existing Christmas stuff, so. But you know, that's not really our,
Yeah,
It was
I know
around
that's-
that before interest rates went up.
yeah, that seems to
Probably
have stopped.
stopped it
quite a
pretty
few.
much.
So did you have concerns? I
Yeah,
mean,
what are your,
Yes, I do.
yeah,
You live
I'll
close
just
by.
share them if you'd like.
You live close by.
This is a publicly viewed meeting.
Yeah, I mean, you should, I mean, it's on tape, and I guess if somebody goes to the YouTube channel, they can find it.
Everything that we do is public.
Yeah, so I wouldn't make any,
I'm wondering, well, I'm coming on scene several years after the fact and just trying to become aware of what's actually going on and how it affects me as a property owner. Seem like people don't know that my property is even there. Kind of tucked away behind the Christmas stuff.
Oh.
And then when I sold the property, I'm aware of certain things that now come to light. And I just have questions on, you know, how the water, the groundwater where I live now is affected by what's going on, and what kind of septic, their septic system is going to affect my property. You know, the other buggers are, and sure, and you know, I know the story began way before I came on the scene.
yeah,
It's kind of overwhelming on where to start. Should even aware
Well,
of.
there must be a docket and the planning board,
Use. Yeah.
land use, yeah, so you should talk to, Miss Vanessa. Planning
Yeah,
department.
you gotta go down to the planning department and pull the documents as to what is approved and what discussions have been, she'll have all that information.
Yeah,
At
I
town
have,
hall.
I have very elaborate maps that I've printed out and I don't understand really the average person doesn't understand. So that's maybe if I, so, someone, from a conservationist point of view, maybe I'd already know something. To be
Yeah, I
concerned
don't
with,
recall that.
or maybe
we
could
did.
explain detailed elaborate maps, have them.
Yeah, well, I'm sure they could provide some help there, they're not too busy. But you can tell Vanessa that we sent you.
But this is a private development, residential, it's not a town project.
Well, yeah, but the town has I mean, they have the authority to, oversee what goes on, you know.
But it's not town land.
No, it's the folks, it's the Caleb family.
Oh.
I guess.
Private land.
Yeah, it's private
It's private
land.
still.
And again, that's where we're kind of stuck with a lot of this is that we have to work under the existing regulations and we're only advisory, so. We kind of pick and choose where we want to.
What was the map and lot?
235.
And do you know the lot number?
Lots 1-1 and lot 3.
1-1.
Community.
And are you off of Route 9 or?
Which is your,
Actually, Community Way, Christmas Lane, right there, lot 4.
your
I
lot?
would, yeah.
There it is. Um, So unfortunately, this doesn't really show anything that's planned. This is existing.
Yeah.
So where are these buildings going? to go?
there.
In here?
Yeah,
3.
that's it.
Number 3,
And it was originally part of.
that's all
the,
being cleared right now.
Yeah,
I looked up at the hill one day, everything's
Yeah.
gone,
right.
tons and tons of trees gone every day.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty big development. The irony is that was originally part of the master plan for the town center. The idea is that we'd have
It can be
in
confusing.
theory, the town hall, the town library and a park maybe. And some other development all in that area. And they had actually, the Christoph folks had offered that. It's a long story.
Yeah.
Didn't pan out, obviously. But it's kind of interesting. You can go back and look at that master plan and go, that would have been really nice, but.
Yeah, I
Well,
think that's
so
some of the,
which is the librry lot now? Is
That
that,
must be the next one up. There's the vet office and then there's what used to be the.
oh, this is it? So
No, it's on that same side. Or maybe I'm looking at the wrong.
well, let me-
Darlene, when I look back at my minutes, which I can check, I just have one here from July 2021. It says at the conservation meeting, it says concerns were raised about runoff and wetland impacts. Charlie mentioned that runoff could be a problem using a 24-hour rain duration with a given slope. It just said Dan, 2 of the conservation members would attend the informational meeting. I can look back and see others, but it looks like from when it was brought up, there were concerns about runoff and wetland impacts, but where that went,
yeah.
it goes to the planning board.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, something has to be looked into, I think.
And but
That's right. That is the library.
yeah,
so.
aren't they thinking about bringing a road through from the library through to this area? That's what Rob was talking about, wasn't it?
I thought it was mainly to provide better pedestrian access. That strip there is the right of way, the railroad
That's here, yeah.
path. And, that makes sense. Well, there's a creek there you have to cross. So you probably have to build a little bridge or, that would be a project for the Trails Committee, I guess. Yeah, I've been interested to go back there and see what it all looks like, but,
Well, it's actually just,
But
it's
anyway,
just the
this-
water
that's-
septics that I'm
Yeah.
worried about going.
Yeah.
over.
yeah, I don't know if we got that far into it or.
And the
probably
wetlands,
didn't.
that's obviously all
And here's
wetlands.
lot 4 there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, I was
Yeah,
also
you're
curious
definitely
about,
being impacted by
yeah.
that.
yeah. I know there are wetlands it's on the other side of the three, is it the lot that they're developing. And that was one of the reasons they claimed, I guess, that they couldn't fit the town hall and other stuff in there because there was too many wetlands and too much potential for, because that was the excuse at one point was given.
Well, it's been privately owned and a home since the 70s and when it was built, so I don't know if anybody's had
Yeah.
an interest in conservation or wetlands.
Yeah.
So the minutes I have after that, it says that the James Hayden, who is the one doing the development, I guess, came in and addressed the concerns. Goes into a little detail, and then at the end, it just says, Ken will send the planning board a letter stating that the Conservation Commission accepts the plans as presented. So evidently, he seemed to address the concerns with the wetlands and everything, and that was the end of it.
Yeah.
So where can I can see that myself?
My minutes or the,
But they,
Yeah.
yeah,
yeah,
Well,
the
we
date
don't know
was
what
July.
to do with our comments. They might not.
July of
Save them.
2020.
these are just
what
my
year?
minutes. These are from July 22nd, 2021. If you, I mean, I can send them to you.
Yeah, can you please?
Yeah, can you give me your, and also if you give me your last name, just so I can put it in our minutes, did I just write down your name and email on there? Let's send those to you. But that's all I have, is just saying that they address the concerns, and then
They sold the house to us a week later.
you might want to, I think it'll be more helpful, maybe check with the planning board and see what they.
Yeah. I mentioned Vanessa, who's town planner. And then John Driscoll is the chair of the planning board. So, you know, those would be the people to talk to, I guess. Yeah, and like I said, they haven't moved forward on construction, but I believe it was all approved. So there may not be much can be done at this point, but sure it'd be good to know at least what they did look into.
And the subdivision's asking certain things.
Yeah.
There weren't any other abutters. There was no meeting like today where people showed up and said, well,
I can look, but I don't believe anyone came to those meetings that we had. Now, whether they went to the planning board meetings, I don't know. Again, I think you'd have better luck checking with the planning board meeting.
Yeah, they would have the list.
They would have more of what was discussed and.
yeah, I've been through it. Every single
The planning
meeting.
board agendas, certainly this far back, they would be on the website. I mean, you could pull them up, right?
Would assume so, but you
Yeah,
said
you
you've
don't-
already checked those, darling.
Well, but if you didn't have the date, it's a lot of them.
Yeah, yeah, there is.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, well, they certainly would have discussed it in some depth, I'm sure.
Oh, that's interesting that you had something in your minutes from July of 2021 though.
Yeah, I mean, I was probably there. I just don't remember the details. That's why we have records. Yeah, okay, well, I
Thanks
hope
for answering my
that's some
questions.
help. Yeah.
Mhm.
Good. All right, well, thanks for coming by and always good to have people drop in on us.
But this is definitely has nothing to do with the village at Barrington Square,
Sure what that is.
but
The last one was
Oh,
July
maybe
22nd, I think.
2021.
Yeah, and the one in July 8th, it was started, and then on July 22nd.
that has nothing to do with the Dove development.
Yeah, and it doesn't sound familiar.
The village at Barrington Square.
Oh, well, that may be the name that they gave to it, yeah.
Oh, it could be the,
Yeah, so yeah, ask them about that. I just wasn't aware of that. But, you know, if they had done some kind of analysis, at least you'd have some better idea of what they determined was
How do
acceptable.
you search? I mean, you found that very quickly. Do you have a search capability?
What I have it on my computer,
Yeah.
so I have all the
Yeah.
minutes
Personally.
on here,
Oh,
right?
okay, so
Yeah.
you can,
Yeah.
Yeah.
well,
but I can't search the planning boards.
Yeah,
Yeah, but you can pull up the dates. I mean, if you know
Well, that's what I'm
date
doing.
you're- You know, where you're.
That's what this is
Right.
planning board.
Yeah, there you go.
so if you went,
So you've already went through this, or is that?
I can, yes, I
Yeah,
started,
I know. It's,
washing dishes and
Right.
stuff to do, yeah,
Yeah.
that's my background music.
okay, all right, well,
Yeah.
hope that's of some help. All right, I guess we're adjourned. So,
Oh, I'm going to share my email.
Yeah. oh, yeah, right.
Thank you, nice to meet you.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
I think I'll put it on.